Hi everyone, my name is Shannon, I am the Wisdom Wench and welcome back. And this week we are going to be talking about dealing with anxiety. These are a few of the things I do when I'm having a particularly bad anxiety day, and I think these might help some of you, so I wanted to share. Grab yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee. I have a cup of tea here, an anti-anxiety tea that I will be making later on in the video, so stick around to see that, and let's talk about it. In this video I'm going to be talking about anxiety, not panic. So panic is in the moment when it feels a lot and you're very much in fight or flight. We're talking about generalized anxiety today. So those particular days when your anxiety might be a little bit higher, a little bit harder to deal with, they're perfectly okay, but sometimes you need a little extra support. I've had all kinds of therapies for anxiety, and I've done all of the usual steps of: have you tried going for a walk? Have you tried these 300 distractions that in the moment you don't know how to decide from because you're overwhelmed? I've done it all. This is a 4-step method, just simple 4 little steps that I have found that help me when I'm having a high anxiety day. The problem with therapies that I've had in the past is they will give me a list of 300-400 distractions that I could do in a moment to try and distract myself. But sometimes it's really hard to pick, and sometimes I just don't know what's going to work. This is the method that works for me. I have 4 main things I do, and it's split into 4 very simple categories: mind, body, spirit, space. That's it. As long as I do something in each of those 4, they help me feel a lot better. And this is something that can be adapted depending on your energy levels and how bad the anxiety is feeling in that particular day, in that particular moment. I can do all of these things without leaving my bed if the anxiety feels too much, but I can also do all these things around my house, and I can do these as bigger things as well to help me feel a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over each one, and then I'm going to give you variations on each one so that you can do it to whatever suits your own needs. And then at the end we're going to go over a little anti-anxiety tea that I've made that I find really helps me. Go over some herbs, things that might help. So first thing is our mind. This is all about the distraction part of things. When my anxiety is really bad, I will spiral and ruminate on maybe 1 or 2 thoughts in particular, and they will just keep going. I have a very bad habit of firstly catastrophizing. I will plan out the absolute worst things that could happen, and very much going into, well, it's this or that, the black and white thinking. There are a number of unhelpful thinking patterns that happen during anxiety, and the idea of doing something for your mind is to pull you out of that. Now, there are hundreds of things that you could do to help anxiety in your mind, but for me, I base it around my favorite hobbies, because that way it's going to capture my interest more. So here's an example for me. The thing I might want to do to engage my mind is cooking. Cooking is one of my favourite hobbies of all time. If my energy levels are incredibly low and the anxiety is incredibly high and I don't feel like I can get out of bed, I can't even think about cooking a meal, then I will set up cooking videos on my tablet or my phone, whatever I have near me. Something like, I like history, so I like to watch videos about historical cooking. I'll put a bunch of links in the pinned comment of the things I like to watch while I'm really, really anxious. But historical cooking is up there for me, is quite a big one. So when my energy is low and I can't go and cook, that is a nice way of me doing it, and it will keep my focus because it's something that I'm already interested in. I find it really hard to engage my mind in something that really doesn't interest me or hold my attention when I am particularly anxious and feeling low. So cooking videos are one for me. Now, if you're feeling you think you can do a little bit more than that, then maybe it's chopping and prepping some vegetables, taking you out of your mind, back into your body, but keeping you engaged in something that you already love, something that you're already interested in. Which brings us into our next one, doing something for your body. When I'm anxious in particular, and I think a few of you might be the same, it's very common that you hunch and that you go very inward. You're very, very tight. Your muscles are tight, your joints are tight. And the next day after a long bout of anxiety, I can have horrible joint pain and backache and generally feel awful in my body because I spent so long tensing. So that's why it's really important for me to do something for my body and to move my body while I'm incredibly anxious. So the first thing I might do if my energy is really low is just sit up in bed in my pajamas, in whatever it is that I'm in that day, and do some very gentle, very basic stretches of my shoulders, of my arms. There's a lot of videos online which is perfect about yoga that you can do in bed so that you don't actually have to get up if that's feeling way too much for you. Simple stretches. And then if your anxiety is low and bubbling and you feel like you can do a little bit more, maybe look at a yoga routine. The main thing I look at is not raising my heart rate too much, because for me that can trigger the anxiety to become worse. So gentle movement, gentle stretching. If my energy levels are a bit better, then I might go for a walk, because getting outside helps me, and feeling generally the presence of nature helps me a lot. But my anxiety has to be fairly low and bubbling for that, so that I can leave the house and feel okay doing so. Next, doing something for your soul. Now by that I mean doing something for your overall emotional or spiritual well-being. When I'm really low and I don't have much energy, I will try really, really hard to find just three little things that I'm grateful for. It could be my bed, it could be people around me, it could be my pets, it can be a cup of tea. Three tiny little things to make you appreciate that it isn't all bad all the time. It's so easy to get sucked in and stuck in that moment and stuck in your own head, and it's really hard to forget that it's not always like that when it feels so all-encompassing all the time. Practicing gratitude is a really easy little thing that you can do for your soul without leaving the bed when the energy is lower. Now, this can be all sorts of things. I like to do little acts of kindness if I can. That's something that really motivates me. Mindfulness and meditation, but if my energy levels are higher, because I struggle to do any form of meditation when I'm really anxious, I just can't slow my brain down to that point. So that's normally out of the question for me. It does really help, but when I'm anxious, it's not that easy. So it will depend on you. It will depend on what gives you that little bit of peace, that little bit of space within you to make you feel and make you remember that it's not always like this. That's a small thing I can do for my soul. I like to journal as well if I'm feeling in a place where I feel like I can process, then I like to journal it out. I do that for me and for my soul, and that really, really helps me just center and calm a little bit more while working through those really uncomfortable feelings. I might read, I might text some friends and reach out, something that is wider than myself. Lastly, I do something for my space. So when I feel really anxious, maybe I've been crying and I've just dropped that tissue on the floor. Maybe I just pick it up and put it in the bin. One small thing for the environment I'm in so that it feels a little more in control. For me, a big theme with my anxiety is feeling really out of control of my space and where I'm at and what I'm feeling. So doing something for your space can help you bring back that sense of being in control of what's going on around you. And normally for me, that will help ease that feeling of out of control within me by practicing what is outside of me. If I'm feeling like I need a bit more of a distraction, I can use doing something with my space, cleaning or a house task as a distraction. It kind of serves a dual purpose. I will get something out of the way that maybe has been bothering me a little while, which helps the overall anxiety, but it also acts as a distraction from the exact moment. Before, when I've had really, really low energy, it will be simple as I just pick one thing off the floor and I put it in the bin. If I've got a cup that's been sitting in my room too long, just go to take it to the kitchen. so that it's ready to go in the dishwasher. Whatever space you're spending most of your time in, one little thing. But maybe you don't need to clean. Maybe you're in a really good position right now. Other things I like to do in my space is create a cozy and calm atmosphere, and that can be part of it. I will turn off the big harsh main lights of the house and maybe light a few candles and maybe put on an incense. Anything like that to create that atmosphere of cozy and calm and making things that little bit smaller. Sometimes I can find the harsh overhead lights of each room can exacerbate my anxiety by bringing everything to light, while taking some of the stimulation out of my environment by turning them off and lighting some candles can help. It can make a world of difference when I'm feeling really low. And all of these things can be adapted to you, your lifestyle, your space, and whatever it is that you need from that moment. You can adapt all of these to your energy levels. You can make them really, really small. You can do all of these things without leaving your bed, without leaving your room, or you can use them as wider things to jump off of when your anxiety is feeling worse. Mind, body, soul, and space. We keep it simple because there's so many things we can do for anxiety, and there are so many different things out there that are like, do this and do that, and this will help and that will help. And they can get really complicated when you're getting so many different messages. Also, if you're in a good place right now and you're watching this and you're like, I'm not feeling any anxiety, I'm feeling good, use that time to prepare for when you are. Anxiety is a natural part of life. It is part of our adaptation, it's part of our evolution. It's there to keep us out of danger. Anxiety is there to help us, not to harm us. But it's really easy for it to get out of control, especially in a modern environment that our bodies aren't quite adapted to. So when you're good, make a little preparation for when things are bad. I've got a little page in my planner of the different things that help me, split into 4 categories and to different degrees of them. Something I can do that's really, really small when my energy is low, and something that I can do that's a bit bigger when my energy is higher, to help ease me back in to the present and into grounding. There are multiple other things you can do. I really like making herbal teas to help calm me down for a few reasons. The warmth of a herbal tea, holding on to the warmth, is a really nice thing to focus on. If you're holding on to the warmth of a cup, you can really focus that down into your hands and it gets you out of your head. That's once again doing something for your body that's small but quite helpful. There are lots of herbs for anxiety and depression. There are some herbs that are contraindicated with SSRIs. There are some that can't be taken with other medications. If you're worried about taking any form of herbs or herbal things, check with your doctor that it's safe to do so with the medications that you are on. I use 4 main herbs when I'm anxious to help support my body and to help calm me down, that are generally very safe. Again, check with a doctor if you are worried. I use, firstly, Hawthorn as my base. Now, Hawthorn isn't for anxiety especially, but Hawthorn is a really good heart tonic. It is very, very supporting of your heart. And for me, one of my biggest symptoms when I'm anxious is a very racing heart. It goes very quickly and it can feel very overwhelming. So taking something that's going to really, really support my heart when it's having to work a little bit overtime is quite useful for me and brings me a lot of comfort to know that I'm taking something that is supportive. So I use Hawthorn as my base for a lot of anxiety things that I make because I want to prioritize my heart. On top of that, I like to add lemon balm. Lemon balm is a lovely, soothing herb, and I find that it calms me right down and it brings a lot of peace. And it's a very gentle working herb. It's not too strong, it's not too overpowering, but its effects are definitely noticeable and they are there. It doesn't have any drowsiness to it for me. It's not very hypnotic. It's just calming and relaxing. So Hawthorn and lemon balm are my 2 biggest ingredients for the tea. After that, I have 2 other herbs that I use in small amounts, mostly because of flavour. I use chamomile. which is known to have slightly sedative properties. So if I'm making this tea at night, I will up the chamomile because I really want the calming and I would like the sedative and I'd like that gentle drift off to sleep. But during the day, I only add a little bit in it. I'd like it also to tie together the herbal remedy. It has a lovely sweet undertone that ties together a lot of other herbs that you might put together. And then finally, a little bit of lavender. I'm not big on the taste of lavender, and lavender and chamomile can both be two very strong flavours. I always want more of the chamomile, so I only put a touch of lavender in, maybe a teaspoon. But lavender is overall a very safe plant. It's more of a taste thing. I love the smell of lavender as well. It makes this tea just smells divine. It smells calming. It smells like an English countryside. It's beautiful. All of the recipe for that will be in the description below. It's a lovely calming tea. It's very warming. And when you drink it, it feels very supportive. It's a really weird thing to say that a tea feels supportive, but this one does. It does feel like it's supporting you and keeping you calm. It feels like a hug. That's it from me today. I wanted to talk about anxiety because it's something that I've had a few more bubbly days of it lately. My anxiety is better in winter and worse in summer because my anxiety is mostly triggered by climate anxiety. So when I'm getting really hot summers, my anxiety goes through the roof and I really, really struggle. Lately we've had a lot of storms, and while I don't get anxious during a storm, I get anxious after the storm, especially because it's damaged my garden a little bit and I need to go do some repairs. So my anxiety makes sense and it's okay. I try to look at it compassionately. My anxiety isn't working against me. It's there to help me, even though sometimes I might not feel that way. It is there to look after you. But sometimes you need to look after it as well. Try to remember these 4 things: mind, body, soul, and space. Let me know if this works for you. Let me know if you have any particular anxiety techniques. Please drop them in the comments below so that I can have a nice long thread for anyone that visits this video of everyone's tips for dealing with anxiety on a daily basis. Physical things that you like to do. As always, I absolutely love hearing from you. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone. Go make this tea, it's good. Go make the tea. Trust me, make the tea. It's a really good tea. Because that does, oh, I just burnt myself. Finally your soul, no. My dog is on the move.
Did I press record? God.